Hello guys, I'm Yasir Ali. Here in this video tutorial we will discuss spear retrieval tool. But before we start our discussion about spear retrieval tool, let's just organize our discussion. So we are basically discussing coil tubing fishing tools. In our discussion about coil tubing fishing tools, we have discussed that what is coil tubing fishing and how many types of coil tubing fishing tools are there. In the discussion of coil tubing fishing tools, we have seen that there are three categories of fishing tools used in coil tubing. The first category is retrieval tools, then second category is jars, accelerators and impact hammers, and the third category is auxiliary fishing tools. In our first category of fishing tools, that is retrieval tools, there are two types, that is spears and overshots. So in today's tutorial we'll discuss the first type of retrieval tools, that is spear retrieval tool. So let's go to our today's topic, that is spear retrieval tool. So talking about the introduction about spear retrieval tool, it is written that a fish with an internal profile will be fished with a spear retrieval tool, which goes inside the fish and engages into the profile. What does it mean? Let's understand with the help of this diagram. So here we have a fish neck. Here we have this fish neck. So if we just see that this fish neck is internal fish neck, and this is the fishing tool. If we want to remove this fish with this particular fish neck, what we'll do, we'll run this tool. This tool will go inside this fish neck and will engage the fish and will then remove this fish from the downhole. So this type of tool which engages internally, that is which catch the fish from the internal side, those tools are known as spear tools. Now let's read again and then we will be clear that a fish with an internal profile will be fished with a spear retrieval tool. That any fish neck, any fish which have internal profile, that will be fished with a tool known as spear retrieval tool, or simply we can say that the fishing tool which engages the fish internally and latch it or catch it, that tool is known as spear retrieval tool. The spear retrieval tool will go inside the internal part and will catch, as I mentioned earlier, that this particular part of this tool, which is basically spear retrieval tool, will go inside this fish neck and will engage, that is catch this particular fish. So this tool is known as spear retrieval tool. Most internal fishing neck have a similar profile and are usually termed as GS profiles. We know that we may have different types of fishes, that is any tool left inside the hole is termed as fish. So there are different designs of the downhole tools, but most internal fishing necks have a similar profile, that is the internal profile, internal design of most of the tools which usually left inside the downhole. They are termed as GS profiles. However, GS spears are trademark of Baker oil tools, as this term is used commonly for different suppliers. So it is recommended to physically confirm that the retrieval tool matches the fish profile before running the tool in hole or to an identical tool as the one that is downhole. What does it mean? It means that the term GS, as I mentioned in the second point, that the most of the fish necks have the internal profile similar, and we call this internal profile as GS profile. But technically speaking, the term GS is for Baker oil tools. For the Baker oil tools, their internal profile is GS design, because the term GS is for Baker oil tools. But no, in the industry, the term GS is commonly used, ignoring the fact that the tool which belongs to which particular supplier. So when we say that the fish neck is GS fish neck, it is quite possible that the tool belongs to Baker, to Schlumberger, to or some other supplier. So now this GS term is commonly used for any type of internal fish neck. So it is recommended that when we are planning a fishing operation or when we are about to run the coil tubing inside the downhole to perform a fishing operation, it is better we make sure that for which particular GS profile we are talking about, that is this GS profile is no commonly used. But before running a tool, we have to make sure that the tool which we are running in the downhole exactly match what is present in the downhole, that is what is the fish inside the downhole. And how we can match? We can check the fish neck, the tool which we have already run in the downhole, or if we have some other identical tool, means for example this fish neck is inside the hole and we have similar fish neck on the surface, so we can engage on the surface and check that the tool which we are running inside the downhole is exactly similar, so that we could save our time. It is important to make sure you have the correct pulling tool, because most pulling tools look alike. It is frustrating and not productive to run a fishing tool in an attempt to latch onto the fish only to discover you have the wrong fishing tool. This is just the explanation of the previous point, that before running a pulling tool or a retrieval tool, it is better to make sure on the surface that we are running the exact tool. Because if we just perform a run and at the end of the run we came to know that the tool which we have run is incorrect tool, that is, it is not matching with the fish neck, or its size is different, or its profile is little bit different, then it will be a non-productive time and it will result in frustration to the client. So it is better that before running a tool we match exactly the fishing profile. So in this particular slide, what we have discussed that the tool which will latch the fish internally is known as spear tool. The internal fish neck is usually termed as GS profile, but this GS term is for Becquerel tools. But nowadays this GS term is used commonly, no matter that it belongs to Baker, Schlumberger, Interval or some other supplier. So when we are planning a fishing operation, when we are running a fishing tool inside the downhole, we have to make sure that the profile which we are running is exactly as per the requirement, that is, the tool inside the downhole should have compatibility with the fishing tool we are running, and we can do it on the surface by checking with an identical tool to avoid the non-productive time. Okay, now we'll see the types of spear retrieval tools. Spear retrieval tools exist in two types depending upon the latching mechanism, that how they latch the downhole fish. So there are two types depending upon the latching mechanism. The first type is spear tool with dogs, and the second type is spear tool with the slips. Spear tool with the dogs used for latching internally on fish with fishing profile. This tool uses dogs which get fixed in the internal profile. So the spear tool with dogs will be used for a fish which have internal fishing profile. Internal fishing profile is that its design is such that the tool will go inside it and will fix. So this is basically spear tool with the dogs. We can see that this collar, this part is basically known as dogs. So we can see that this collar, and here it also have a collar like profile. So this particular part will go inside and will fix here. Okay, when we will run this fishing tool, it will be compressed, and when it will go inside it will retract and will latch or will fix on this particular profile. So this tool which is used for a fish neck which have some internal fishing profile, that is some internal design to get fixed or to get latched, these tools are known as spear tools with dogs. Okay, so this part is basically known as dogs, and as I described already, that this particular part will fix over here, and this part is known as dogs. So the first type is spear tool with dogs. Second type is spear tool with slips. So it is just opposite, that the spear tool with slips is used for latching internally on fish with no fishing profile, for those fishes which don't have any fishing profile. For example, some downhole tools breaks, for example it breaks from this particular point, so it will not have this design, this internal profile. For that fish retrieval we use a tool which have slips, as we can see over here. So these slips will go inside the tool and will set or will bite. So this is written over here, this tool uses slips that bite into the ID of the cylindrical fish. So there are two types, the tool with dogs and the tool with slips. spear retrieval tool types depending upon the releasing mechanism. We have just seen the types of spear retrieval tool depending upon the latching mechanism. Here we'll see the types depending upon the releasing mechanism. Depending on the releasing mechanism, there are two types of spear retrieval tool. The first one is hydraulic release fishing tool, and the second one is mechanical release fishing tool. We'll discuss these two types separately in our next tutorial. So that's the discussion for this particular tutorial. So let's just summarize what we have discussed. We have discussed spear retrieval tool, its introduction. Then we understood the concept of GS fish neck. Then we discussed the two types of retrieval tool, that is spear tool with dogs and spear tool with slips. And now we have concluded our discussion with the types of spear retrieval tool depending upon the releasing mechanism. We will continue our discussion in the next tutorial. So thank you very much. See you in the next tutorial.